Hello and welcome to another episode of Senior Living Sales and Marketing. I'm Roy. We've got a great guest with us today. We're going to talk about branding, and I'll be the first to say I have very limited knowledge of it. So I'm happy that we have Valerie here with StunningBrand to help us out. I'm not forgetting her last name. It's just very difficult to pronounce. So what I will do is I will get her after the introduction to she can say that for us. It sounds awesome when she says it, not so much when I try to say it. But Valerie and her team, they bring 32 years of experience in broadcasting, social media, stakeholder engagement, community building, public speaking, and negotiation to both the private, not-for-profit, and public sectors. So serve a wide range of clients, and that was why I was excited to have Valerie, and she's taken time out of her late evening. She is in the UK, so we appreciate you taking time, Valerie. First off, before we go too much further, can you give us a pronunciation of your last name, please?
It's Forgeard in French.
Okay.
You're not expected to say it.
Okay, yeah, my French is terrible. I can barely speak English, good English. So anyway, what I want to do is I just want to start at the beginning, and this what we're talking about today is going to be more geared toward corporations, big corporations, not necessarily individuals or solopreneurs. There is a little bit of difference there. So just so everybody is kind of on board with that, we're going to talk to corporations. So let's just start at the beginning, where you can tell the audience kind of what is branding. We typically, some of us that are not knowledgeable, we think it's a logo or we think it's a web page, but I know it's so much more encompassing. So let's just take it from the start. I have a corporation. I want to either develop my brand or maybe rebrand in some manner. So I come to you and your team. Where do we start? First, and secondly, welcome to the show. Thanks so much. But where do we start?
Thanks for having me here. So first, I'd like to say that branding sounds like a complicated word, but we brand every day. Right now, you're branding yourself to me and I'm branding yourself to you, and we're not even aware of it, because branding is the representation of the brand. So it's the image that the brand represents and how people will talk about it. The only difference with, which is a big difference with the corporations, is that in the corporations there could be 50,000 or 100,000 of different Roys, which means that it's a lot of people to represent the brand. So yes, a brand has a logo, has a website, does its market. Companies do their marketing to impress their clients, to gain more clients. But it is also around the personality of the brand, but also around the people who represent the brand, which is why, sorry.
No, you're fine.
You wanted to say something. Which is why the classic branding doesn't really work anymore, because everyone nowadays has the perfect design, has the same classic marketing. So if everyone does the same thing, branding is not, each branding is not really unique. It's just another flashy, perfect design and another shouting on social media. And so how can you make a difference with your branding? Well, first it comes, so if you come to me, I would ask you, what is the story? So if you're a corporation, I presume that it's very likely that your design is already sorted out, you hired professionals to do it, your marketing is already up and running. So that's not really the area where I would go to. But I would ask you, what's the history of your branding? How did it start? Why? what's the story behind your brand. Usually there's always fantastic stories that come out. Sometimes I spoke with people who were not even aware that, for example, their grandparents were already attached to, to the company they had in terms of how they were influenced. But also it's also about the leaders of the organization or the corporations. Many times we don't think of the leaders, but the leaders, some of the leaders may have some really good stories attached to the brand, to the story of the corporation. There could be also what is the interest for the next step. So some corporations now adopt corporate social responsibility to make an impression, to make more impact and to get their brand. And the great thing with social responsibility is because it's like a marriage with a big NGO, for example. So both gain. The NGO can raise awareness to the clients of the brand, of the corporation. The corporation can also raise awareness about their brand to the NGO supporters. So that's a big thing that is being done now. So these would be the questions first I would ask is after the story is about which impact do you want to make apart from just showing how successful you are. Yeah. And we would look at these different areas.
I'm not being rude. I'm actually taking notes. This is very interesting. So yeah, I want to talk about the story for just a minute because a lot of time in business, we try not to be personal, or we try not to tell those stories. We try to be very sterile. But you know, one thing I talk a lot about is not only telling the company story, but the individual story. That's how I think that's how we connect with other individuals, is if when we can connect on a personal level and not be a sterile, non-feeling company.
Yes. Well, I think to tell a story, first the story has to be really aligned with the brand, but it also has to be aligned with you. I agree with the fact that if you don't feel comfortable of telling a personal story, and not everyone is ready for that, it doesn't have to be. I mean, some companies use other people's stories that connect to them to create an emotion. Because beyond the physical branding, what really matters is the emotion. So it doesn't have to be your story, but it can be someone else's story. So for example, corporations who are associating themselves with an NGO could have, for example, a guest. So for example, let's say it's an NGO that helps refugees, could have a refugee coming and talk at the event and show that the corporation is supporting this cause. Right. So that can be an example, for example. So that would touch the clients, providing that but usually a corporation will choose an area where it's safe. And also the corporation at the same time does something good, so it's good karma.
Right. Yeah, and I think, the story goes a long way in conveying our brand. Unless you're very lucky and have a very unique product or service, there's somebody else that sells the same product or service out in the market. So the other thing that I've talk about a lot and feel that we have to do is we have to create the value. Why do you want to deal with me, either for my service or my product? Again, I think that's where stories can go a long way in helping us show where that value is to people that we're trying to reach.
Yeah, I mean, these days for corporations, it's very data driven. So they will know what their customers what kind of topic their customers are interested in. There would be surveys, there would be, so it's not like they would suddenly dive in into supporting another organization. And it doesn't have to be an organization. I mean, some corporations use emotion in their campaigns. They do campaigns. For example, Coca-Cola did a campaign about happiness, to encourage people to think about happiness. When they did their slogan, choose happiness. Or you have also, for example, Children of the World, which is a non-profit organization. I like to give the example of non-profit organizations because they're fantastic when it comes to creating emotions. Because a corporation sells a product usually which people want, otherwise they can't grow. But a non-profit organization sells something that people don't especially want unless they are raised awareness. So the emotion has to be created strongly.
And I think that's important even for products. You know, in sales, that's one thing they always try to tell you is that you have to tell a story that creates that emotion in order to, you know, interest people. So I did notice that, you know, in some of your collateral, that's something that you talk a lot about is creating that emotion. It's some kind of an emotional response.
Yeah. Now there can be downsides about this, which is why some people are reluctant to tell a story, which is connected with brand damage. So sometimes the story or values are being promoted, but within the company, it's not being respected, and then you will hear about an employee who will start to sue the corporation about harassment, and people will say, well, you've been promoting this and all your values and that, and so I would say, well, when we speak about pushing further the branding, we also have to look at the downside, the potential risk that the company might run by running new campaigns or associating themselves with specific organizations.
So I kind of have a question that's basically back at the beginning. I guess it's branding 101. So it's a twofold question. First off is, how important is our name? And I love the name of your company, StunningBrand, because you say exactly what you do. And there is some thoughts around the concept that you really don't have to be service product specific in your name. And, you know, the fine example of that is Google. I mean, nobody knew what a Google was, you know, 20 years ago, and now all of a sudden it's not only a noun, but it's a verb. So can you kind of elaborate on how important is naming and trying to focus on our product or service, or is it really not that important anymore?
It's a debate. It's a big debate out there. I haven't chosen my side yet.
Okay. No, that's fair. That's fair. It's a difficult question. And, you know, looking at naming things, and you always want to be in that space, but sometimes it's like, well, all the good ones are already taken. So you kind of have to look outside of that. So I won't press you on that then. And because it is a debate, there's a lot of argument. There's a lot of data, you know, that kind of goes both ways on that. So the other question about naming is, how hard is it if you're a corporation that's been in business in the same space for, I don't know, 25, 30 years, and now you decide that you want to change your name to something, you know, maybe you've grown and evolved in something more representative. How hard is that to have a name change with a well-established company?
You're talking about rebranding.
Yes.
Yeah, it's very hard. I don't really touch this area. I mean, if I
Okay.
do have clients who are interested in this, I can recommend people who have worked for
Okay.
some of the
Okay.
top companies who do rebranding.
Okay.
But from what they told me, it's often a struggle because they want to rebrand, but then when they get to the stage of rebranding, they kind of attach. It's like letting your children go, you know.
Right. Right.
It's
Exactly.
hard to
Exactly.
let them go.
Yeah.
Mm.
So a lot of times that change, somebody wants to make a change because of a brand damage. Maybe I've got a brand, something went wrong with my product, my service, bad publicity, bad press. And so if you can't get out from under it, sometimes people think the best thing to do is make a change. So do you ever do any brand damage work?
Yeah, it would be more like refreshing the brand.
Okay.
So my advice would be take positive action that will make good publicity. I see a brand like a person in a way, and you know, when someone made a mistake, the person has the choice to either keep justifying and try to make things better according to the first mistake, or they can ignore it and keep doing good, try to keep doing good things to actually help the reputation to do better. So I would say don't get stuck with the bad reputation, but think of what is the next thing you can do. And very often what I would advise is either to go with some social responsibility, corporate responsibility to well, first it will help the brand to look better. And also it will show the clients that there is an improvement, there is something. Now, if it's to do with employees who have been, for example, badly treated and clients found out and it looked really bad, I would advise to take action and make it public. We have modified our policy, and if it's to do with the products that were bad products, then well, don't sell them anymore, maybe,
Right,
or
right.
show the improvement that has been done and show the whole process of the improvement. I mean, the thing is, there's no corporation who is perfect. It's hard work to run already a small company, but when you're running a huge corporation, mistakes are going to happen all the time. The wrong products are going to come out every now and then. But how to deal with it, I would say, is the same way we deal with our personal life. Our personal life, we can choose to stay stuck with what's not working, or we can find a way forward and how to refresh the image. By being completely honest, and sometimes is to admit that yes, this was wrong, and people are not blind, and this is the thing. There's a lot of leaders who have a lot of pride, and they don't want to tell there's been an issue, but there's a way. I mean, you don't have to be on your knees and apologize. There's ways of saying things, and there's ways of making things look better. I mean, if it's a really big scandal, or if it's a very big area, then I would give it to Dan, for example, who is someone who has worked for ITV and is been working with people who have very big international reputations. So that would get into the area of reputation management. So it's really, I would assess what the damage is and see who is the best person to take it over.
Okay. Yeah, and I think transparency is the best way out of trouble. Is sometimes we have to admit it, and then we lay out our course of action of how we're trying to fix it, how we won't repeat that, because like you said, nobody's perfect. We're all going to make mistakes, especially when you have large corporations with a lot of people. We can't be with them at every minute of every day. So things happen. And so that kind of leads into another kind of area with social media, with each employee having their social media account. There is, I guess there's a lot of room for that to be damaging, but there's also a lot of room for your employees to be advocates of your brand.
It's a big opportunity to spread the word as well. I mean, for example, a corporation who has 50,000 employees could run, for example, awards. I do it with my non-profit organization. Well, it's not a non-profit anymore, my community. They could give awards, for example, for the employees who promoted best the corporation, and they could give them training as well, because the fear very often of corporation to bring brand advocacy among their staff. They're worried that someone is going to mess up or say the wrong thing or misrepresent the brand. But there are trainings for this that can be given. It's possible to educate the employees, to educate them also about their personal brand, because sometimes the personal brand of the employee could damage a little bit the reputation of the corporation, the way what they post on social media, for example, and it's to raise awareness more about how the social media world works, and also there are, I mean, a lot of corporations now are integrating diversity. It's a very big word these days, and also integrating like mindfulness. They're trying to get the employees well for their well-being, but also it is branding also the corporation, because I see all the time on LinkedIn employees speaking about the corporation where they work and say, "Oh, I've been to this great mindfulness training." So it's great publicity for
exactly
for corporation.
Exactly. Yeah, and kind of the flip side of that is with the big brands, they need to be mindful of monitoring traffic, negative. Let's talk in the negative for a minute, but you know, disgruntled customers, maybe even competition trying to pull a fast one and posting bad experiences about your product or service. So in order to keep your brand reputation, it's important to monitor you know, what's going on out there on social media platforms with your brand.
Well, it's like in life, very often the issue will come from the inner circle. And what many times corporations are not aware, and non-profit organizations as well. I mean, I've experienced once in a big non-profit international organization which is promoting all the good to do in the world. The mainline manager was introducing himself as a temple of cider. I mean, what? But you know, if someone photographed him, or not photographed him, but made a video, these days it's very easy to record people. That could have been a huge scandal, because you're talking about humanitarian and social issues. So, you know, bringing like heavy alcohol in conversations when you're supposed to work, it's not really the place. Personal life is one thing, but what many people are not aware is when we're within the company, they're branding the corporation for their 8 or 9 hours a day. That they're spending there. Everything they say, everything they do is part of the branding. And tomorrow someone might just pass or work there for one day and record, and then it goes in the press, and you've got this big scandal about you know, like sexual harassment and all the things we're hearing. But the thing is, when you have 50,000 or 100,000 employees, you can't control everyone, but you can train them. You can educate them about the values and why it is important to have a certain code of behavior. So I know most corporations and organizations have their big leaflets, but very often nobody reads it. I mean, people who start a job, they're just eager to start a job. They're not reading every document that they receive. They sign it, but they're not reading every single thing. So training is very important, and the future will be more and more about this, because the millennials are paying a lot of attention to ethics. And if a brand is not ethical, that will have an
yeah. And I think you make a good point there, that when you come onto a company, you're onboarded, you sign the documents, you go through it, that really shouldn't be the end. There should always be refreshers. Again, it goes back to employee engagement. We need to keep employees engaged enough where we can reach out and talk to them about how we expect them to act and represent us, because like you said, even in their personal life, if things could go really bad for them, it can make the brand look bad and be very damaging as well.
Yeah, no, supporting employees' well-being and supporting, the education about the values, I think is very important. And many corporations don't think it's important until they have to.
Exactly. So one more thing, the consistency of branding, because again, there's so many platforms out there that we need to be, even though we may message different on different platforms, the branding, how do we keep that consistent?
What do you mean by, for example, because there's a lot of consistency area?
Well, like, across Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, they all reach a little bit different audience, and I know we can tweak our messaging, but our branding still needs to be very consistent no matter what channels that we put that out on.
Yeah, well, usually it's the communications department's job. What I've seen in the private sector, usually it tends to be more consistent. The big non-profit organizations tend to be consistent, but I have seen in some large organizations actually, which are international, where it's not consistent. People don't really see it because the bigger news stay consistent and it's stronger. But I think as AI is coming in, people are going to pay attention also on more and more details. So eventually, I think the lack of consistency in some places will be spotted. I mean, because I've got a background in fashion, it was in my early career, represented like LVMH, and so as a sales negotiator. But what I've learned there is perfectionism, and I can tell you consistency has to be like, even when you sleep, you dream about it. Right. So I tend to spot the details that a lot of people don't spot. But the thing is, like everything, when you start to go outside the line, then you can cross it more and more, and mistakes can be done very easily. But if there's a lack of consistency, I mean, many times it doesn't damage too much the brand, but it just reduces the strength of the branding, because people just don't recognize that we're speaking about the same thing. So and brands also, corporations also have brand and sub-brands. So for example, for certain products, they will brand a little bit differently. But again, when it comes to employees, for example, promoting it, yes, I think education is important, because someone might just say something that has nothing to do with what they're trying to promote.
Right. Well, Valerie, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to talk to us about corporate branding. Before I let you go, first off, is there a tool or a habit or that you use in your daily life, either your business or your personal life, that you just couldn't do without?
A tool.
Mm-hmm.
My computer, my phone.
Your phone, right? Okay.
Do you mean
Yeah, if it's the phone, an app, could be. I hear a lot of practicing gratefulness. You know, people go out for take walks when they get stressed. So just anything that you do, you know, in your life that you just couldn't do without.
I meditate actually
Okay.
every morning and every evening. That helps concentrating for the rest of the day, and in the evening it helps me sleep well.
Okay, no, that's good. That's good to know.
And I find it very helpful in terms of focus.
Right.
In terms of a physical tool, then yes, I couldn't live without my computer because I work online.
Right.
So that would be dramatic.
Right. All right. Well, Valerie, thanks again. Tell everybody, number one, who is your customer, what you do for them, and how they can reach out and get a hold of you.
Yes, so I can advise from corporations to personal branding, or sometimes personal branding in corporations as well. At the moment, I'm mentoring on a Santander Women Leaders program. But I've also worked with tech companies. I'm very open. I mean, for me, branding is branding. It doesn't really matter in which sector. What matters is what you want to achieve, and if you're open to speak about the history of your brand. It's like with lawyers, if you don't tell everything that's important, then something might be missed out. So I would say potential clients, just be aware that I will not come in as a tourist and pick up the money, because clients also represent my brand. So I don't want to work with clients where I know something might go wrong. I will do a full assessment before making sure that, before confirming that we can work together. So the assessment is free. So you can reach me at hello@stunningbrand.com, and someone will reply. And we do a free assessment of 1 hour to see what is needed and what has been done before and what is the step forward. You'll have a questionnaire to fill. It's not long. It's very short, about 10 questions. And then we can assess how we proceed, and if we proceed, if you're happy also with what I'm suggesting. So there's no obligation. I always think if the client is happy, and then it's great for my brand. So I prefer to do an assessment first. Some people will take the service straight away, but I have some friends for whom it went wrong, and then the reputation goes with it. So
no, that's right. Your brand. So you got to protect your brand. Exactly. No, I understand that. All right. Well, reach out to Valerie and let her, give you the assessment, see what she can do to help you either strengthen or change your brand, whatever you need done. She'll be glad to help you out. Again, thanks for taking time out of your day. My name is Roy. This is the Senior Living Sales and Marketing Podcast. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and Spotify. Please be sure and share with your friends. You can also find us at www.seniorlivingsalesandmarketing.com. And if you have any questions, please reach out to me or reach out to Valerie. Until next time, thank you very much.